Welcome, Pamela Artison. She is with Artison Anointed Accounting. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here today.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited. This is very timely, right? A lot of us are definitely not relaxed about our taxes, but today we're going to help everybody out there to learn to find, strategies and not have all the stresses. So, I thank you so much for being here. And I wanted to ask you, how did you get into financial services and from like being a CPA or not a CPA, but like in accounting, like helping people with their taxes? What was your journey and your road to that?
Well, I was I like to, yeah. So I was a senior in high school, and um, I was fortunate enough to have accounting courses in my senior year. And then, of course, I graduated early, so I had to go back and I wanted to be the class president and all this wonderful stuff. And so one of um, the young lady that was teaching accounting asked me if I'd be willing to create like case studies for
Hmm.
proper classes for the accounting. And not to brag, but I was pretty good with math. And so I was like, oh, yeah, this sounds well fun. I mean, mind you, I'm 17 at the time. And so I would just go home and play with numbers and ideas. And again, fortunate enough to have, family members that were in corporate America, so I could use them as guinea pigs, and came up with a few case studies and took it back to the class. Again, I was already done with school after the first trimester. And so shared that with her and sat in some as like a TA, if you will, and helped individuals understand the proper planning behind what you want to be when you grow up,
Mhm.
business owner. Okay, what kind of business? And
Yeah.
so we would use those types of things as some of the case studies, and from there it just kind of grew. Well, I was prepared to go to college. June of 1981, graduated high school, and had been accepted to Grambling State University, and went on there. Got homesick after the first quarter, doing a couple of stumples uh, with the poles and what have you,
Oh,
part of the
nice.
deltas, whatever. Just a lot
Nice.
of fun, but I was missing my family.
Mhm.
So I applied for the University of Washington in Seattle and asked if I could, do your little essays. And one of the challenges was you have to first not be so country. We don't understand what you're saying.
Oh, no.
So I took a lot of speech courses first as part of my intro in college. Um, but anyway, as a college student and still hearing from my teacher from high school, um, again, about to get married, all the nine, right? And my husband's name was Artison, last name. So God, in a weird kind of way, midnight, waking up, and I said, "Wow, I have my business name." And it that's where the name Artison Anointed Accounting came from. Mind you, I was in college because of the math. I was able to get what we call an affirmative action scholarship, and I was going to school to be an air traffic controller. Loved airplanes, loved, hadn't really been on one yet. This is what's really weird. And so in college, one of the professors says, you're really good with this, that, and the other. And as I was taking more accounting courses, it just drove me into accounting. Then, of course, your calculus, and then it's like you want to try taxes, and and once I tapped in it, it was like, wow, this is me. I think I found my calling. And of course, you're hearing so many stories about how much time individuals use in college settings, but yet never use it as a career.
Right.
And I said, wow, I could save the planes or I could save people on the
Uh-huh.
ground. on the ground.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where that came from. And with that name, during my college years, um, family members would come to me and, just ask. And so, of course, back then everything was paper. And so I learned the hard way, right? Unlike today. But I would just do people's tax returns and they would get money and they get all excited. And that's kind of how the clientele built, around the family. And then the family would tell someone else, and I really grew it. But as I got older, probably in my early 20s, it dawned on me that people needed the education more than they needed their taxes done. It
Hmm.
didn't matter how big they were, my auntie at GE or auntie at Marbell Telephone Company. What I felt I could be a better service to them was educating them so that even if they chose for me to do the returns, they would understand what was transpiring versus just giving it to me and
Hmm.
saying, Nisi, you do it. Okay. And so that's kind of where I guess if I'd have went straight for the dollars, I'd probably be a multimillionaire today. But God has humbled me that people need more education than they need.
Yeah.
And then, of course, God gives the increase, right? So I haven't been homeless and without a meal. Um, but it really does humble you because especially our generation, our culture, it's really hard for them to trust.
Mm.
And again, branching from the family as my core, that allowed some of their friends and those types of environments to enter into my world. And yet from there, just giving courses on finances, right? How do you build? How do you go from 0 to 2,000? Things like that. And yeah, the rest is kind of history. It's just created a love, and still, years later, I'm still doing it. So yeah, it's just something about seeing the face of someone who feels like they've gotten something out of it. Time wasn't wasted. And that's something that they can use and they do use daily.
Hmm.
So I'm grateful to be in the financial headquarters, I would call
Hmm.
it.
I think that
Yeah.
is amazing, kind of the journey you've been on, and how you were living in one place and then you move to another place and you kind of have the mindset of, oh, I'm going to do air traffic controlling, right? And even what you said, Artison Anointed, and how God kind of moved your journey. And some people are like, finances are so boring, but you know what? They're not. Like once you get it, and especially helping people, right? If you can help people, that is my goal. Kind of the motto for my business is helping the average day American, right? I want to help us learn to put money away so that we can be in a better position to do the things that we want to do, right? That we want to go on those vacations, but also the really amazing things that you can do with money giving to others. Like that is the funnest part to me, right? Being
Yeah.
able to dream like, oh, this person's having a hard time. What if I could just pay their debt off, or whatever,
Yes,
right? And so I think that's why I love this business so much. It's not boring. It's interesting. I love talking to people. It's a people business, right?
it
And
is.
so I think kind of your journey from doing taxes, right? And then now we're in financial services, the big picture, but overall it's the same. You're giving an education, right? So
That's it.
I'm kind of uh seeing your journey and seeing how it kind of all adds up. I think that's really awesome. Um,
Thank you.
so I kind of want to start first a little bit as we are entering tax season, right? Everybody's got their taxes this week. And I wanted to kind of talk to you a little bit, kind of what are some of the biggest surprises people are seeing with taxes right now?
Um, I would say the big bill, I don't know if you're familiar with it. I think that is the biggest surprise with the average tax returns now or the taxpayers is that this one big bill came out, from our president,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody knew what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And so life went on as if it didn't affect them
Mm-hmm.
until it did,
Uh,
you know. And so that is the biggest, I would say, is just, again, education. Um, they know something happened, but because they were working America and all that, they thought, well, it doesn't affect me.
mm-hmm.
But yeah, if there's anything, it's the whole legislation that affects us,
Mm-hmm.
one area or another, whether it was your property taxes, whether it was your income on the payroll tax
Mm-hmm.
side, or whether it was a deduction,
Mm-hmm.
it affected you. Or
Mm-hmm.
maybe you somebody who is on public assistance.
Mm-hmm.
It affected you.
Mm-hmm.
Your SNAP is no longer snapping or snapping at the capacity you wished, or maybe you're a recipient of some income from TANF, right?
Mm-hmm.
It affects you. But the beauty is you can still file taxes.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, so I
Mm-hmm.
would think that that was probably the greatest impact that affects the 2025 tax returns.
Yeah. I know with all things, right? Governments change and rules change. And so having that education just to know what is new for the year, to see what affects you. I know we moved to another state a few years ago and I was like, "Oh, I didn't know about this. Oh, I didn't know about that. What's this fee? Why do we have to do this?" So there's always something new that you have to deal with, right? And so it could be challenging. So we definitely need that education to try to figure out how to put ourselves in a better plan, whether it be now and even as I kind of transition to the next question. So with all the rules now, knowing what you know, what is some advice you can give to others about what they can do now to affect their taxes for next year?
I would say the key strategy, if you will, would be to get educated.
Mm-hmm.
Like just because it's not tax season or you just finished it,
Mm-hmm.
one, stop and look at what transpired in this year
Mm-hmm.
so that you stay ahead of what could happen next year.
Right.
One of the beauties about being a tax preparer or tax accountant is that we're we have to get the education because, as you mentioned, the laws change, right?
Mm-hmm.
What happened last year is not going to always be the same moving forward. Your
Mm-hmm.
standard deductions changes, the itemized caps changes, your capital losses and gains changes, the homeowner, what you can and cannot deduct changes. There's so many common changes that we
Yeah.
deal with, but if we're not on top of them, we won't know how to prepare going into the new year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, mind you, this is always a challenge for my average customer or client. By the time the average American files their federal taxes, you're already 3 to 4 months in the new year.
Ah, that's
So,
true. Yeah.
a lot of times we're just not prepared. You want to make it happen in April or May or March or April when you've already hit the button, fine. Then prepare yourself moving forward. Find
Right.
out what transpired, and you should always have a copy, at least of 3 years of your tax returns that you can refer back to. Doesn't really require a financial professional or a CPA or anyone. This is for your valued understanding because even us in the financial professional arena can sometimes say words and just go over your head and you're like, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
right.
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
I love to refer to the Word of God. Excuse me if this is out of line, but one of those scriptures that sticks to me is write it and make it plain. We
Mm,
all have questions that don't necessarily come up when we need them to, but when they do come up, write it down
yeah.
because you don't know in the room or whatever where that'll just kind of peek back and go, wow, I need to talk to her or him.
Mm-hmm.
There's something going on. I need that answer now.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, even our Lord Savior wrote it on stone. Okay. And just
Yeah,
think about it that way. And was it for his remembrance so we can come back to her, or was it a message to us?
right.
And
Yeah.
I like to use that as an analogy because a lot of times our brains are working 10 times faster than our hands or finding that
Mm-hmm.
piece of paper. But
Mm-hmm.
you got a cell phone, right? Speak right into it. I'm just saying that for me, that would be ideal
Mm-hmm.
strategies for preparing for the next tax year.
Okay. Yeah, I think that you're so right because you have those thoughts, and I think I don't know if you've ever gotten up in the middle of the night and you have this thought and you're like, oh, I'm gonna remember that, and the next day you're like, I don't remember what that was. So I think that we do have things that come up. And just like, before we hopped on, I had a tax question for you, and that was good. And I wrote it down because I knew I needed to remember to ask you. I wanted your input. So I think, it is good to have your questions down. And then I think about, some strategies and savings. Like when we talk about things that people can do, what are some things like practically, whether it be maybe putting yourself in a tax shelter with your money or getting an LLC. Like I know we're not, experts on those things, but what are some things that you would think of that people could do as far as tax advantages that they could do this year that would help them for next year?
Well, definitely looking at things that are tax free, not tax deferred.
Mm,
And first understanding the difference, right? Tax deferred means you're going to have to pay taxes eventually when you go to use it, right?
mm-hmm,
And tax free means after I paid the taxes on my income, I use that money to create my tax free world. So, what does that mean? Well, there's tons of opportunities out there. And the one, of course, that comes to mind for most of us are cash valued, accumulated
mm-hmm,
life insurance policies,
right.
right? People would think,
Mm-hmm,
wow, why that?
mm-hmm,
Well, you've already paid the taxes on your earned dollar. Why not have that, what we call the net income, create lifetime income?
mm-hmm,
We want to live when we retire and things like that at the capacity in which we're accustomed to. But that's not going to happen if all of your money you felt you set aside is in a deferred account.
mm-hmm.
It's just not going to work. And that just speaks volumes. There's a lot of opportunity out there to look at or speak to any of us in the financial industry to help you find plans or services that will work for you and yours. And it's not going to be the same for your neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be the same for your children. But what could you do to better the future for yourself?
Yes, definitely. That's really good because I think a lot of people don't think about those things till later in life. And, you know, not to bash one product over another, but I know there are certain products that you can put your money in and think, well, I'm going to retire on that product, and then you get hit with all the taxes, And I
Mm-hmm.
think that really diversification, like I think
That's
uh,
it.
being a financial professional, um, sitting down with your client, right? Where are the holes in your boat? Right? Are you spending too much money at Starbucks? Are you watching too much Netflix? Are you going out to eat, which I don't know about you, but prices are insane, right? And sometimes
Insane.
you get food and you go, I didn't even like this food, And so,
Not to mention you didn't even
right?
get full off of it, right?
Exactly. And so I think that there's a lot of different ways to set and look at your finances with someone, right? See what we can do to help you one get out of debt, right? And then coming up with these tax strategies because you want to. I'm always thinking, well, how do I not pay taxes next year, right? Whether that be my deductions or where I put my money in a tax shelter for the year. And so it's been really great talking to people, kind of finding out strategies and ways that we can help people to be in good situations, right? And so,
Right.
what do you think that, most people don't really realize taxes, life insurance, an annuity, a 401k, all these things kind of go together to set you up for the big picture. What kind of input would you give somebody when thinking about the big picture of those things?
Well, I think a lot of tax strategies start with age,
Mm,
right? Um, when we speak on retirement, it's not how old you are when you decide not to work, right? It's how much money you have.
yeah.
It really is. How many people in our communities do we see minding the Walmart door or the door? And you can just look at them and tell that, you know what? They're kind of up there in age.
Yeah.
And they're doing that to make ends meet.
Hmm.
So honestly, if we're talking any types of strategies in finances, it needs to start when you're educated on what to do.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter if you're 60, it doesn't matter if you're 16.
Hmm.
Somebody needs to be educating you on how to stretch, if you will, the dollar. The dollar today is not going to have its same value when I retire. It's just
Right.
not.
Right.
So probably the best, if I was a gambling woman, I would say you start with sitting down, and as Shanna mentioned, getting an understanding of the dollar,
Hmm.
right? What can I do with it? And another thing she mentioned was the diversification. That's huge. You never want to have all of your eggs in one basket,
Right.
because if you do, the end result will not be nice, because if that plummets, so does your money.
Hmm.
It's gone. So having it in multiple spaces that would be an advantage to you is why you need that education. Okay, the average American works a job, and most of them offer 401k plans.
Hmm.
Okay, within those 401ks, 403bs, 457s, whatever they are, depending on your working industry, you have an option to put it in what's called a deferred account or an after-tax account. Some of them are
Mm.
considered Roths or something to that
Hmm.
nature. So thinking about the balance, because if you go to use any of that money in the deferred account, to use it, you're going to have to pay taxes on it. Why?
Hmm.
Because you didn't pay on it when you
Right.
put it in there. So
Right.
the after effect is your balance, putting some in the Roth, some in the 401k deferred. That way, when it is tax time for what you need to take out, you have the money in the Roth to pay the taxes on the deferred.
Yeah.
That's just one strategy.
Like what you were
There's
saying, it's not how much you have, it's how much you keep.
Exactly. It truly is how much you keep.
Uh-huh.
So if you don't mind throwing away your money and knowing that as the years go on, our taxes, you can just look at its history, doesn't necessarily go down.
Right.
It always manages to have a rise, because you working every year, you're expecting an increase every year, right? So with that comes a higher tax bracket,
Right. Yeah.
automatic.
Hmm.
So you have to think beyond your right now. You have to think about tomorrow and the next day. And you're never too young to do
Right.
that, or old for that matter. You're
Yeah.
never, as long as you know, that is half the battle.
Hmm.
It truly is half the battle. Having that understanding before you make unnecessary changes to what you have going on. And Shauna mentioned something else that sticks to my heart: debt. Okay. If you are in debt and you're trying to create strategies to just build for tomorrow, the debt is still there.
Hmm.
So be mindful of how you're splitting that understanding about your money, because with the debt, and we already know credit cards, automobiles,
Yeah.
you know, they're all bondage in my world. So you want to be able to be in a place that you could still make that happen, but yet saving and creating for tomorrow.
Definitely. And I think that you said several things there. I think putting yourself in a tax sheltered advantage account, right? And you have to find what is best for you. Also, getting rid of the debt, right? We're kind of strapped by that. We can't put ourselves in a good financial position until that's gone. And so I love to work with clients to where you're looking at everything and we're figuring out how to get you in a position to deal with your debt, getting you a savings plan so that you have an emergency fund. And then we're putting you into an account where you can start building cash, borrowing from yourself, and I just read an article about how the 20-year-olds are actually doing this more and more these days. I think they're getting the financial education that we didn't have, right? And so
Correct.
it's exciting to know the future. They're not going to be strapped with the debt. And when you don't have debt, when you have a little pool of cash, right? For the car, you're not going to get all those high interest rates. It's then you can think about, well, what do I want to do? How can I give back to society? How can I get a great job and do great things, right? Because we're not meant to be, stuck. And I think that it's like exciting. Like I like thinking about how people can keep what they have, right? And so we just don't get that financial education. So it's really cool just to hear kind of your journey and how you've been able to really help people, but how much education is so valid, in all the different communities. Um, I just think everybody deserves to know their choices, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so when you can kind of present them with something to be like, well, you may be here, but let's look at your future to see where you can be in a better position. So
Yes.
cool.
And
It's really
finding those
cool. Have
tax
you? Uh-huh.
I was just saying, and find those tax shelters. That's what we can offer you. Because
Mhm.
a lot of times when we talk about debt, we've created a lot of our own debt by the lack of communication. You mentioned this earlier. Do we really need to be paying $300 for cable? If you can actually sit down, I'm a numbers person. If you can actually sit down and average hours you actually watch a television, you'll be slapping yourself because you haven't spent $200-300 on that show.
Mhm.
You might have a special show you watch every Wednesday night. And I'm not bashing the cable industry or internets or any of that. All I'm saying is that if you don't know, if you don't see it in black and white, sometimes we're just doing things naturally because it's there. We're not thinking about how that extra, getting that same show you love for $50, finding a way to get a fire stick or whatever it is, right? Can cut down that cost. And now you have extra funds
Uh-huh.
to take care of some of that debt.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's why I like to do a financial review with everybody because, you know, we're not here to tell you what to do with your money. We're just here to show it to you and help you to give you some opportunities, some choices, right? And so
Right.
I like that we get to do that with people and it's so fun to do
Yes.
it with young people. It's fun to do it with older people, putting them in something where they're not going to run out of money. But we're a few episodes in. Thank you everybody for watching my channel. And I just thought I want to ask you something fun. What is something
Okay.
fun like okay, you're in a good financial position that maybe as a little girl you thought, well, I'd never be able to do this that you've gotten to do in your life.
Um, wow, I have quite a few fun things that's happened.
That's
Um,
awesome.
I honestly never saw myself being in the position that I'm in ever.
Hmm.
And I mean that from being a mother
Hmm.
to being a grandmother to being a tax accountant. Like I said, I was going for the air traffic controller.
Yeah.
But I I believe that the paths are created to show your purpose.
Mm.
And, even though we're talking about a little bit about taxes and finances, the rewards that we receive from just the ability to sit down and have these kind of conversations
Mm-hmm.
with individuals who they look at us as the expert, but they don't realize how much they actually educate us in that process.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is beautiful because I just would have never thought it. You think, okay, I went to school, I got the education, I've gotten the pay, and I still don't know it all.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is beautiful because I can speak to my grandchild, it's maybe 8, and I can literally learn something.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I could speak to my 25-year-old baby, my son, and learn something,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or I could speak to my 40-year-old daughter and learn something.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention our grandparents and aunts and
Yeah.
uncles. It's just amazing that we learn to glean
Mm-hmm.
back and forth
Mm-hmm.
because every situation with every individual we meet with is different.
Yeah.
They're different.
Yeah.
We manage to become different,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's just the beauty in the conversations that really strengthens me and gives me that will,
Mm-hmm.
that ambition to want to go further, right? And so for me, that has been a daily journey for me. I may be a tax accountant, but I'm an HR director. I am an HR business partner. I am a payroll expert. I'm all these things. But the bottom line is in each one of those industries, professions, jobs, I learned as much as I believe I taught.
Yeah.
And that is the beauty that keeps me going. We never get
Sometimes,
too old.
mhm,
Yeah. We
never
never get too
can.
old. Yeah.
No. I think sometimes my friends are like, why are you doing this? I said, I just love to share information. I love to help people. But like you, I'm an observer of people. And people fascinate me from whatever walk of life you're in. It's so cool just to sit down and talk to people, and hear their
Right.
experience, and think how we are so much more alike than we're different, and that makes it really fun for me. I kind of enjoy that part of life. And I think educating people, give them the freedom, to see people without all the stress is just really such a joy. And I just thank you, Queen Pam, for meeting with me today. It's so awesome. I love just
Yeah.
hearing a little bit about you and even before just about your family. You were truly blessed. I just want to tell everybody out there to stay sharp, stay prepared. Please hit that bell for notifications. And if you know someone that needs this information, please share it with them. I appreciate you guys so much. And I really want you to take care of your financial future and do well. Thank you so much for being here today. Have a great one,
Thank
guys.
you.
See you next episode.